There are moments in our history that you probably couldn't even imagine. Take Switzerland, for example. Everyone knows where Switzerland is, right? A small, charming country where my grandparents lived, nestled in the mountains between Italy and Germany. Did you know that Muslims had a strong presence in Switzerland for 150 years? Very interesting. The question is, how did they get there? Through the Cordoban Caliphate. Yes, that same Cordoban Caliphate. But what did they lose in Switzerland? They were quite advanced. How did they get there? Through their naval strength. Spain has always been famous for its navy, as has Portugal. They had an advantage at sea, while Spanish and Portuguese Muslims dominated the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. They built incredible ships. The question is, why did they build such incredible ships? The reason for all this was the Vikings. What brought the Vikings into history in the first place? Muslim Spain and Portugal. Muslim Spain and Portugal became so wealthy that they drained all the wealth of Northern Europe. This is confirmed by reliable facts from economic history. Countries like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, England, Northern Germany, and Holland practically united because trade with them ceased. They lost profits, and merchants needed profits. Traders from Italy, France, and other countries were no longer attracted to the north, since there was nothing there except sheepskin, linen, and timber. Meanwhile, in Spain and Portugal, all you had to do was pay your life, and you were under the protection of the state. An abundance of gold, silver, silk, oranges, and lemons immediately opened up before you. Whatever you could wish for. It's incredible. In fact, that's exactly how it was. Numerous dissertations have been written on this topic at the University of Michigan. I don't know if one of the historians is still alive. His name was Aaron Groats. Does anyone know if he is still alive? Professor Aaron Groats was one of my colleagues. He was working on this very topic. So, the Vikings needed a way out. You've probably all seen movies about Vikings with some exaggerations, but the Vikings needed a way out. Where did they go? First of all, to Lisbon in Portugal, a great Muslim city. They managed to ravage it because Lisbon was not protected from the Atlantic, simply because there were no enemies from the Atlantic. They devastated Lisbon and took away a huge amount of various goods, taking women and children captive. Then they attacked Seville. All these were Muslim cities, Muslim ports. The Caliph of that time, al-Rahman was building a mosque in Cordoba and said, "I won't lift another brick until I deal with these fire worshippers." He called them fire worshippers, and also Normans from the Nordic peoples. He said, "Stop building the mosque. We will deal with these people. We will teach these scoundrels a lesson. No one dares to attack our cities. If you want to trade with us, go ahead. But we will not tolerate such an attitude. We will teach you a lesson." The great scholar of the Maliki school in Cordoba at that time, one of our famous teachers, Ibn al-Hadid, said, "You are the Caliph." He did not tell him to continue to sit idly by. In those days, they did not sit idly by, but he told him to continue to complete the construction of the mosque and at the same time deal with the Vikings. After which, jihad was declared. After 100 days, there was not a wet spot left of the Vikings. They suffered severe punishment. Many Vikings then converted to Islam and settled in Spain. I even had the chance to visit their cities, such as Jerez de Frontera, which in Arabic we usually call Sharish. It has always been considered a city of Scandinavian Muslims. We also know about the Vikings in Denmark. Ambassadors were sent specifically to Denmark to find out who the Vikings were and how they fought. They did, in fact, have very fast ships, which they used for attacks. The question arises, why did they take so many women and children captive? That's because, according to Islamic law, we are obliged to ransom or exchange captives. All the children and women they took to Denmark were to be returned. The ambassadors were faced with this task as well. They would pay in gold, but they must return them, bringing back their children and women at the same time. They were sent to find out who these people were and how they waged war. They eventually discovered that the Vikings had not only warships, as we see in the movies, but also cargo ships, barges on which they carried away captive women and children, plundered gold and silver. All this indicated their vulnerability. Since the barges could not move quickly, they constantly had to escort the barges at sea for protection. Then a plan of action was developed against the Vikings. We will build fast ships, and on the bow of our ships, we will install cannons, specifically naphthaline cannons. These are cannons that use flammable oil. They fired fiery cannonballs and set ships on fire. In the background, we will place archers armed with bows and crossbows. If you compare samurai swords, which are excellent in their quality, our swords were no worse. We had excellent arrows, and were at the height of our skill. We will position archers with so many arrows that they can fire continuously for weeks. We will use bridges to board the Viking ships, preventing them from simply escaping. All this led to the conclusion of peace with the Vikings, which lasted about 16 years until the death of the king. Many Vikings became Muslims after his death. A new king ascended the throne, renouncing his predecessor's treaty and resuming attacks on Lisbon, Seville, and a number of port cities in Spain and Portugal. In response, fortifications with watchtowers were built along the entire Portuguese coast. They have survived, and you can check them out for yourself. I would be happy to visit these places with you. Similar towers are also found along the Spanish coastline, but they played a special role in the defense of the Portuguese coast. The towers were so close to each other that they could quickly transmit smoke signals, light signals, and mirror signals. There was an entire signal system for transmitting information. As soon as a Viking ship appeared in sight, a signal was sent out, regardless of whether it was day or night. Immediately, naval forces were sent to intercept the enemy right at sea. They could not be allowed to land. Thus, the Vikings resumed their naval campaigns. About 50 ships participated in the first siege of Lisbon, and in the second, there were already about 70 ships with Viking warriors. The Muslims intercepted them right at sea, burned half of their flotilla, and captured all their barges. The survivors managed to escape, then entered the Mediterranean and took Morocco and other regions. Then one of the most important battles in history took place. You should have learned about it in school, or have you not heard? It was a pivotal battle in the history of mankind. All the ships were transferred to Majorca. By that time, all the islands of the Mediterranean were already Muslim. They converted Majorca, Minorca, and Ibiza to Islam even before Spain and Portugal. Have you been to Ibiza? Do you know where the name Ibiza comes from? It is derived from the Arabic word for the dry island. Then they based their fleet in Majorca and advanced all the way to Switzerland, along the Rhone River. It's high time we wrote history. We've already taught lessons in Detroit on African roots in America, on the origins of Muslim Africans in America, and on the origins of Islamic Africans in America. These are not fairy tales or illusions. They are historical facts. But for some reason, this isn't mentioned in our history textbooks. It's time to write our own history textbooks on Bismillah Tal.